Hello everybody and good afternoon. Welcome to Facebook Live event for Beach House Center for Recovery. My name is Candice Rasa. I'm the Clinical Director of Beach House Center, and I have with me today some amazing guests here to talk about how we confront recovery with courage. So I'm going to kick it over to Micah to tell us a little bit about his role and his thoughts.
Good afternoon. I'm Micah Robbins. I am the Director of Alumni Outcomes and Groups and some outreach stuff. I do all kinds of fun things here. It's fantastic. But a lot of the work I do is with our folks as they prepare to get back into the community, which that is one of those vulnerable times, also one of those places to be courageous, as they say. And looking forward to having a conversation about that. And over in California, we have another guest.
Mr. Shane. So Shane, would you like to say hello to us and tell us a little bit about what you do?
Yeah, absolutely. First, thanks for having me out to join this call today. I'm out in, like Micah said, in Northern California. I am the creator and host of Sober Guy Radio, and also myself am in recovery since 2014, September of 2014. So I have my own journey. Have my own struggles till even up until today. That's why I'm always trying to actively work a recovery program. Sober Guy Radio, just real quick, we put a new show out every Friday. Really meant to just to add another tool to the arsenal of those out there who are trying to stay clean, trying to stay sober. We have some great guests from people in recovery, people in the recovery industry, athletes, musicians, doctors, all kinds of cool people. So I'm just grateful to be here today, grateful to be breathing today, that's for sure, and I appreciate the opportunity.
Great. Thank you so much, Shane. So I just want to let all of our viewers and listeners know that we are taking live questions. So if you have a question, feel free to post it on Facebook, and we'll do our best to get to your question throughout the podcast. We are discussing again vulnerability as it relates to courage, courage in recovery. You know, Brene Brown is one of my favorite humans of all time, and she talks a lot about vulnerability. And she says that when we are confronted with a stranger's unimaginable pain, we have two choices. We can choose fear or we can choose courage. And I myself am not in recovery, but I work with a lot of clients who are on this journey, and I cannot say enough how much courage it takes to live a lifestyle of recovery. And so I think today is a really important day for us to discuss a little bit about what is there to fear on the journey of recovery. What has been your experience with the scary parts of recovery? We talk a lot about what we don't like about addiction, but it's also good to talk about the challenges of how we achieve that courage and what sort of fears are in our way along the way. So I'd like to start with Micah and his work with our clients and his experience with our alumni. What do you notice as being a huge barrier or fear for people?
Well, I think that there's the biggest fear, of course, gives the opportunity for courage, right?
Sure.
Is it's just that next unknown. Those first, as we talk in groups here, from the beginning steps, when people first come into program, and discussing that in itself took a tremendous amount of courage. We talk about how commendable that is, how it really was a courageous act to get to that step. Well, that journey takes its trajectory, and then it's time to take those next steps. Mm-hmm. Like any great journey, those next steps are always fraught with risk, you say. So we have to look at a couple things. First is what has been learned so far. What tools have you created? What assets have you created in that last few weeks? Okay, so you started at one place. Well, look at what you've gained over here. So the more knowledge that people have, the more tools that they have, and the more they can realize that and understand the ways those are going to help them moving forward is a great way to start those first steps. We're not saying it's not going to be, fearful, if you will, but that gives you the tools for courage. Yeah. And so we practice those things here. It's like you're hearing things from different groups and different interactions you have. Well, let's put all those pieces together. And what is that going to mean? So having them just be very aware of that situation and being able, instead of fearing it, embracing it. And that's where the courage comes in. You're converting that fear feeling, which isn't a bad thing. That means that we all know that's your body telling you something's about to change or something's up. all right, well, how am I prepared to deal with that? Where before, maybe you weren't prepared for that. Now you've done all the work. The next work is to come. So being ready for that moment and being ready to embrace that moment, I think, is really important.
Yeah. So what I heard Micah saying a lot about is embracing the courage of change. Shane, I would love to hear your opinion about some of your own journey, if you're willing to share, and some of your advice that you give to your listeners about fear in the recovery journey.
Yeah, absolutely. And a lot of good points, Micah. And, one thing that kind of stands out to me as you were finishing up at the end there was, embracing that stuff. And one thing that comes next to that for me was, I can't remember where I heard this. I want to say it was Mark Divine, but I could be wrong at that. So don't hold me to it. But embracing the suck, right? So we got to embrace those things that we sucked at for a long time. And it's kind of crazy to think about that, because that's something for me that I stuffed down and I didn't want to ever take a honest look at, was, the things that I was not good at. And that could be a number of things, just from something stupid that's mechanical that I would get frustrated about, or something up to the terms of being, stuck in an addiction that I can't really get out of. And so once I got to a point where I could kind of reflect honestly at myself, because I hurt so bad, that's really what drove me over the edge to do that. And I always like to point that out. I just was tired. I was tired of feeling that same dark, or being in that same dark place every day. Now I got to backtrack, and I got to take an honest look at all the things I suck at. And I got to take a look at those and be honest with myself about why I suck at them and how can I improve myself. Maybe those things aren't things that are, that I'm very passionate about, and I can be okay with not being good at those things. I don't have to beat myself up about it. And so if I kind of jump ahead into the recovery part of that, that's such an important thing in just being okay with my past. Those things don't define me. It's about today, and it's about moving forward. And there is a lot of fear in that. But when I put my trust in God, in a higher power, that's what gets me through the day and relieves a lot of that stress, that pressure when I feel like the weight's on my shoulders. I don't have to deal with that. I can't control that stuff. I give it up to God, and it makes my life so much easier. And plus, man, He's a lot smarter than me. I'm pretty much a dumbass when it comes to making correct decisions. Sometimes I've learned that the hard way.
Wow. So, what's interesting is that, just hearing you speak, you seem like someone, Shane, who just really embraces your authenticity and embraces who you are, and you don't seem to take yourself all that seriously. And I think that's a really important tip, because we hold ourselves to these unimaginable standards of perfection, and I think we set ourselves up to fail that way. And so just really being okay with all of our mistakes and accepting our the ways we suck. And also in how I would describe it as, I always try to say to clients that, you're perfect, divine, whole, and complete just the way you are, with no changes. And on the path of recovery, it's just about actualizing those things as real. And it's that you've gone farther away from that reality through your addiction, but it's always been there, and it's completely untouched by your behavior. And so, hearing you say that, you embrace yourself, irrespective of all that stuff, kind of reminds me of that. So I appreciate your vulnerability so much. So thank you for saying that. I thought maybe we could speak a little bit about the ingredients of courage, because courage is like a big fancy word. It's like a lion. It sounds really cool, and I would certainly like to be courageous, but it's hard to put it into words and action steps for people. And I think maybe our viewers would really appreciate what we would say as what makes up courage. And I'll start just from the clinical point of view, working with clients. I would say that courage is best embraced through self-honesty. That being really honest with where you are, who you are, is the first step. So that's my tip for courage. What about you, Micah?
Well, I always thought courage is more of an active role. Like being brave is almost singular, but courage wraps it all together. And it's interesting, we're talking about this today. I was working with a group of young people over the weekend, and they had a leadership retreat. And for young people, leadership, they sometimes look at it as a thing,
right.
as opposed to, well, it's really a journey. It's embracing a whole lot of things, and courage is a part of that. And coincidentally, their theme was be bold like a lion. And so we explored some of those things. And for them, for these young people, faith was a big component of that for them. But also just that step of reaching out to new people, to embrace others' strengths, others' vulnerabilities, and realize they had so much of that shared experience. And that this journey doesn't have to be met alone. You said something really important about sort of being that yourself. You start with yourself. You start with, and absolutely, and being comfortable with that gives you courage, and having that sense of self, sense of self-worth, all of that is really important to it. But it's not because you're leading all those skills for like one moment. It's being prepared for all the moments that are going to come, and all those things are going to take courage, and it's going to evolve, and it's going to change, and new things are going to happen. You're going to learn new things, and that's going to adapt, but it keeps you prepared all the time for those next moments. And that's what, anybody that we work with that's in recovery and extending that journey, it is that discussion that you're preparing now, and you're going to be more ready today than you were yesterday. But tomorrow's going to bring you new lessons that are going to get you more prepared for the next step. So that I look at it, again, it's an active word. It's an organic word. Courage is not something that's a label. And when you said it best, it's not just this big word. It's like when people say teamwork. Well, we teamworked and we communicated. Okay, well, let's dig into that a little bit. So having that courage, it's a whole bunch of ingredients. So think of all those things that you do, sense of self and understanding what makes you, and be okay with that, and be okay with others and what they do, and seeing that value in it, that starts to bubble up all that stuff that creates a courageous experience.
Yeah, and it sounds like that courage can be obviously unique to the person.
Absolutely.
Because we all have our own sort of special recipe of the qualities within us that build courage. Shane, can you give us some tips on your end about courage and recovery and sort of what's involved?
I will do my best.
Be courageous, Shane.
It's a good answer, right? It's fair. No, but the courage thing, man, it's so tough. And I know for me, stepping outside of myself, and Candice, I think you kind of alluded to this about being honest. And I think we've actually all kind of mentioned it, the three of us so far, about being honest and being honest with ourselves. Until I know in my own journey, until I was able to get to a point where I was honest with myself, and then I could start to grow on top of that, I lacked a lot of courage, because a lot of the things that I reacted on and that I did were all based out of fear. And so, I had created in my own, and then I had also let the fear of what other people think of me create this person that really wasn't the authentic me. That wasn't who I was. In fact, I really had no freaking idea who I was at that point. Then you combine that with a lot of substances to help numb out all those feelings, and man, you got a really bad recipe there that is, it's a recipe for disaster. And once I kind of weeded through and was able to clean some of those things up, I started finding my authentic self, and in that, I started not giving a shit about what anybody thought about me anymore. And it was more important about, who I was as a person and my values, and those things where I could go back and say, well, I could do this and nobody would know about it. Well, you know what? I would know about it. And that kind of self, I don't even know what the right word is there, but it's not self-control or something else in that. But it's just something, I guess it's integrity. It's taking integrity. It's taking a stand and saying, these are my core values. These are what I believe in. And I'm going to do my best, because I'm not perfect at it. I always want to stress that, man. I have my days for sure, but I do my best to try to stay on point with that. And that really builds the authentic self, and it helps me to trust myself. It helps me to reach out to other people and know that, hey, I am who I am. If you don't like it, hey, man, I'll see you later. You know what I mean? I don't need that in my life anyway. So, courage is a big thing, and I think everybody has their own little designed recipe for it, and whatever works for you. But you just got to have a good attitude, and wake up with gratitude. The attitude of gratitude is huge.
Great. Yeah. Thank you so much for sharing. It's kind of like just the courage to be imperfect. It's like such a taboo thing sometimes in society now, being driven by so much perfection everywhere you look, and achieving things and results driven, society, that just embracing your imperfection, I think, is really important. I know that, I've gotten to a place of greater courage and self-actualization by being around a supportive community. And I'm sure that you both would agree that recovery doesn't happen without a supportive community of some kind. And so, that can be a scary process and require courage for people. Just reaching out and asking for help, it's not so easy to do. I once worked with a client and they were super afraid. They kept relapsing every time they finished treatment because they had trouble speaking to people at meetings. They were embarrassed, they were ashamed, they felt like they were imperfect, they weren't going to be good enough. And so we actually went through this little book on conversation starters, and we role played them. I pretended to be a person at the meeting, and we went over them over and over and over again until this client got comfortable with just going out there and asking for help. I know, Shane, that you've sort of disclosed that you're in recovery. What was supportive or nurturing to you to kind of get you to reach out and ask for help? What would you say that was?
Well, one was I was just tired, so there was some obvious emotional stuff going on with me where I was waking up every day, I was doing the same thing every day, and I was swearing up and down that I wasn't going to do it that next day, only to be doing it again in the morning time. And so it was this repetitive pattern. So that was one component of it. The other component in actually recognizing that was already, Candice, what you talked about, which is so huge, is community and having people to support you, having people around you that build you up, not tear you down. And that comes with people, and it also comes with environments. So I had to take a really honest look at who I was hanging out with, where I was hanging out, and a lot of the patterns that I was getting into. And lucky for me, I had a good friend of mine, Seth. Seth is a regular on the show on Sober Radio, and he kind of helped me to see that there was a life out there without alcohol, without drugs, and living positive and healthy, a healthy lifestyle. And so I kind of had him to look to first, and then beyond that, I just started changing my environments, my people. I started reading a lot. I started educating myself, and another huge component is finding something that I was passionate about that, could fill that void that I was trying to fill by using and abusing drugs and alcohol. And for me, that's media. I'm a producer, host, musician, all that stuff. And so that's what I found. And I obviously enjoy helping people too. So you combine that together. That's what I'm passionate about. And that helps drive me every day to stay clean, to stay sober, and to live a positive lifestyle.
I think that's a real important, and the community piece is, if you think of the conversation we've had, and as people are on their journey to recovery, so they've been able to embrace themselves, first protective factor right there, an understanding, reaching out to those peers, if you will, and sponsors, peers, your sport. Then it is that third component, that true sense of community. And I think one of the challenges we all face in this is that we've started to lose that sense of community, just the way our society just is right now. And that's not an indictment, that's just sort of one of the realities that we live in. And what I've found working with our folks in the recovery community, and also the work I do with the Palm Beach County Substance Awareness Coalition, that's what we're all about, is community, is that we almost have to go back to the drawing board to learn what we've already known. A good, strong sense of community and a sense of place in it, and a sense that you value it and it values you is critical to anybody, any community, but also to anybody's not only sobriety, but also just as one of the fundamental things we need as people. And I think that that's what's been really powerful to witness and powerful to be a part of, to see our recovery community coming together. And yes, it's called the recovery community, but at its essence, it's what a real community is. Reaching out, looking out for each other, reaching out for support, finding the resources you need, understanding and valuing the place that you live. It's not just a stopover. You're here now, you're present here. What can you leave to make that place better? What can that place do to help support you? And I think that's a real fundamental thing to all this work. And And I think Shane alluded to it too in his journey, finding those things you're passionate about, and then looking around, see who else can connect to that. But just that sense of place and community. We've built so many walls, physical walls around the places we live, which then in turn builds walls around us, and we isolate, and we got to turn that back out. So, and just the epidemiology of substance. A lot of these substances, that's what they do. They put you in that warm, fuzzy bubble, and you're isolated pod of one. There is no community to it. So coming out of that and then seeing what's available, and that takes us right to that place of fear, but that also opportunity to be courageous and step out in that sense of community. And I think that's one of the fundamental things here, is really a true sense of community. And it's exciting to see what we're doing here in South Florida. Certainly the incredible thing Shane is doing, and this is happening across the country too. But I think as that, as our recovery population, and sometimes I think it's important to embrace that term, but these are our fellow brothers and sisters and everybody in our community. As we start thinking about the value all of us have, you're going to start seeing those risk factors go down, and you're going to see some of those existential reasons for some of this substance use start to go down. And I know I'm getting on my coalition prevention high horse here, but this is such an important part of it, and to see it in action, and it does work. And so I can't emphasize that community aspect enough, and it takes a whole community to be courageous sometimes. So there's my soapbox for
that.
Yes,
well, good job. I'll stand there with you. Yeah, I think something that you brought up, Micah, that Shane also alluded to, was this just amazing concept of embracing your passions. I think that folks in recovery are people who have these quieted passions and gifts that don't really get a chance to be out in the world during active addiction. And I always say that addiction is the best way to divorce yourself. And when you're not connected to yourself, it's really difficult to connect with a community of people. And so I think something we do here at Beach House is we're intimately aware of the challenge in the long-term perspective of recovery for clients who don't feel connected to themselves, or clients who don't feel that they're connected to a passion that they have. So I do think that courage is not just about the community piece, but like what Shane said, it's the company that you keep. So being around people who celebrate you, being around people who can help you find your passion, really does give people meaning and purpose in their lives. I wouldn't be sitting here. I don't think you'd be sitting here if we didn't feel connected and passionate to this cause, and that's our reason for being, our why. So it's important that we help, and I know for me, to help other people find that same experience, because it feels great to know that what you're doing in the world is important and meaningful and makes you happy every day when you get up in the morning. And
what a gift, too, or I should say, what a metaphor. You talk about that gift and everybody working together and on ourselves to unwrap those gifts.
Yeah.
I mean, think of it, it's like Christmas morning every morning, when you're unwrapping those gifts of yourself and you can share and people can value and see that. And again, it comes down to those passions and skills, and it's those gifts. People have so many gifts, and to see those unwrap again, that's a powerful thing, very powerful thing.
Shane, what would you say to people who have a ton of fear in early recovery, that just are feeling really overwhelmed by it and are feeling kind of paralyzed by it? What would you say to that?
First, you're not alone. Man, you're not alone. That's such a big feeling. I mean, it really isolated me because I felt so alone. I didn't feel like anybody would understand. And I'm here to tell you that's not true. There's thousands of men, women out there who are going through the same thing that, someone watching or listening right now might be going through. So reach out. Like, there's tons of resources, and there's no weakness in asking for help. If anything, it's going to make you stronger in the end. And then next to that, man, there's always going to be haters. Like, people are always going to hate. Like, and I know that was a thing for me. Like, what is this person going to think? What is that person going to think? Like, how am I going to leave this lifestyle like that, that I've been, it's all I know. How am I going to have fun? Those are the types of things that we have to get over and move away from and start moving into those positive environments. And there is plenty of them and plenty of those resources to help you along the way. And man, fear's a tricky thing. Mm-hmm. And lastly, just remember that, alcohol, drugs, that's only a small component of it. For me, this is a me issue. And if you're out there struggling with it, chances are it's probably a you issue too. And so I'm not saying, some of us have been through some pretty shitty things in our lives. I get that. But masking them behind, substances, it's not doing anything except making those wounds deeper and making those hurts, not have the ability to start healing. And so reach out. There's someone out there that can help you. You can reach out on the Sober Guy website, www.thatsoberguy.com. Obviously, Beach House has a ton of resources. There's people out there that care. So if no one's told you that they love you today, I love you. So that's that.
Thanks, Shane. We love you too. And what's great about what you just said is that you're touching on this idea of reaching out and getting help. And we had a question from Jared about what resources or suggestions we would have for family members who are working with loved ones in the recovery process, and how to help them and encourage them in a healthy way. Because family is really, really important. We can't say that enough. So what would you say is a good tip, Micah, for families?
Well, first of all, that for a lot of families, this is it's not a one-person issue. These things don't just appear out of nowhere. So the more the family can have an understanding of not only where their loved one is in that process, but where are they in that process? And it might be a great opportunity for them to reach out and get support, and they can do that together. Most communities have, Al-Anon and other programs that are out there, but also working with, if they're at Beach House, if they're at another program, working with that program. Any program, if a family wants to be a part of that process, they're going to embrace that. I mean, we encourage it enough. Encourage it all the time. Sometimes it's a barrier for us to reach out and get the family involved, but that's a key piece to this. The other part is, again, in the community, utilizing those resources that are out there. There are various task forces and support groups and moms groups, not only online, but in person too, which I like, even though certainly our friend Shane's great with the social media, and we're working on that too, but making that real connection as well is really important. So getting involved in your community, we have our task force that meets every Tuesday morning at 9 at the Coalition. So come on down to that. But there's a number of other groups right here in South Florida that meet regularly. But get involved and embrace that challenge therein, that it's an opportunity for everybody in the family.
Yeah. I always say that, the opportunity to reflect upon yourself, to find ways or discover ways that need to be shifted or changed is such a gift. And it's not, it's nothing negative. And I think I would advise families that to take a good long look at how addiction has impacted your life and the ways in which you've been affected and what needs to change and heal within you. I think a lot of times in early recovery, families put all their focus on the person who's going through it, and they don't take enough accountability and responsibility for doing some healing on their own. So I would definitely advise that. And I think we're kind of wrapping things up, so I would...
It flies by.
I know, it just goes by so quickly. I'd love to kind of kick it back to Shane one more time if he has any comments or feedback for us on this idea of family support, and any other comments that he would love to share with us on courage.
I just, once again, I thank you guys for allowing me the opportunity to sit in with you today. I hope that, somebody out there finds something out of this, and it can really help them. I think just like going back to the beginning about being okay with embracing the suck, I don't have all the answers. You guys don't have all the answers. Nobody has all the answers, but what's important is that we're open. We're open to new ideas. We're open to finding things, to stepping out of our comfort zone, because that's when some changes are really going to take place, and we can start to heal, we can start to improve, we can start to get better as better people. Real quick, as far as the family goes, that is such an important topic, because you're so right. The family doesn't get a lot of the attention sometimes. It's always on the person struggling with the substance issue, and the family is such an important component. And I would say to somebody out there as a family member, I still struggle with people in my family that are in active addiction, and it's tough even being in with my own issues, but I know that I cannot save them. I can't help them. It's not my responsibility. God has a plan for all of us, And yes, I'm there for them. I'm going to be there for them. They know that right up front. I'm always here for you, but I'm going to have very clear boundaries set. I'm not going to allow you to infiltrate the good things that I've done in my life for myself and my family. And, I'm going to pray for you. I'm going to be here for you. But, I think that's the most important thing. Like, it's not my job to save you. I have my own things to deal with in my own life to do. And I don't mean that in a selfish way. I just mean that in a very healthy, creating boundaries type of way. So, much love to everyone out there. I hope this helps somebody out there today.
Yeah, Shane, thank you so much for joining us. So Shane Raymer again from Sober Guy Podcast, and we just really appreciated all your realness, your rawness, your suckness, your loveness, all that great stuff. So thank you so much for being here. And Micah, our community, alumni, special event, man of all things.
I'm just going to get embrace the suck t-shirt.
Yes.
I think that's what we're going to wear
Yes,
this next
indeed.
time. It's going to be awesome.
Well, thank you so much for your insights today.
Thank you.
And I want to thank everybody out there for watching us on Facebook Live. And we wish you lots of love and courage on your continued journey wherever you are in your life. And if you want to check us out, beachhouserehabcenter.com is how you can connect with Beach House. So thank you, everybody, and have a great afternoon. Bye-bye.